everybody. It's great to see you. It's great to see all that progress that Steve's talking about, and I'm grateful to all of you for making that possible. And I'd like to build, as Steve said on his remarks, to talk about how we're doing across the university more broadly. We handed out visual aids when you came in, a sheet of paper that we put together for this time, a sort of a scorecard of which I saw many of you studying intently beforehand, and you may take with you and study intently afterwards. I require eye contact at all points while I'm talking. And what it really shows us is that, boy, are we lucky. So fortunate to be at a place that is doing so well in so many ways, especially during the times when the economy is struggling and where higher education generally is under such stress. Basically, all those numbers show what's happened during the Great Recession, and yet they are very positive numbers. We're strong in all the facets of the economic health of our institution, from the endowment to the discount rate, from the quality and size of our academic space to the compensation of our faculty and staff. Hussein Sadid and his colleagues in Business and Finance, and Rob Blanford and Steve Neely and their colleagues at Spider Management, and Nancy Tessier and Cindy Deffenbaugh and their colleagues in Enrollment Management deserve our thanks for steering us through these treacherous economic times with such expertise. On another important front, we should be extremely pleased by the dramatic increase in the number, breadth, and academic quality of the applicants to all our schools. We've become far more representative of our nation and of the world, even as we have crossed the symbolic and yet strangely satisfying threshold of a 1,300 average SAT. We've also seen that Gil Villanueva and Nate Crozier and their colleagues, including all of you who've welcomed visitors to your classes, all of you who've spoken with their families, all of you who've helped recruit our Richmond scholars, deserve our gratitude for bringing us the best class that we've ever had. The law school, for its part, was one of the very few law schools in the entire nation to register and then keep an increase in applications, actually a double-digit increase in applications this year. So congratulations to Wendy Perdue and Michelle Rahman. A third of the students for the School of Professional Continuing Studies are students of color this year, the largest proportion we've ever had there. And many other kinds of progress appear on that sheet, top to bottom. It's not just the work of the last 5 years that represents, of course. That progress comes, that success comes from the strong foundations that have been building here for decades. In fact, the whole secret of the Richmond Promise is that it is a culmination of progress and possibilities, generations in the making. All of us are the fortunate recipients of the hard work and vision and energy of faculty and staff and administrators who strengthened the University of Richmond long before this scorecard began, and all of us are grateful. The scorecard shows that we've made great progress on the ingredients of all 5 principles of the Richmond Promise, on the goals of inclusivity, of innovation, of integration, of connection. By embracing the best of who we are, we've made ourselves stronger. Now, there remain challenges, though, some of which we've made for ourselves. And that same strategic planning process that Steve talked about that gave us the Richmond Promise has lurking within it something that has not yet come to fruition. The planning group for Principle 5, you know who you are, devoted to integrating life inside and outside the classroom, proposed something audacious. It hides there behind a Roman numeral and then an Arabic numeral and then lowercase numbers in parentheses. But it's there nevertheless. And it says that to fulfill our promises, we should, quote, guarantee all full-time students at least one of the following opportunities: independent or faculty-directed research, an international educational experience, a community-based project, a public service or career-based internship, regardless of their ability to pay all costs associated with that experience. So that's kind of strategic planning talk, but if you listen carefully, there are some volatile words in there. Guarantee, all, and regardless of ability to pay. This became known as the Bessesi Guarantee, identified with that firebrand, Steve Bessesi, who is always causing problems with his radical ideas. And so that his name can be forever dissociated from this radical idea. Henceforth, this incendiary plan will be called the less colorful but more descriptive UR Summer Fellowship. Unless you have $30 million, and then it can be called whatever you would like for it to be called. Now, the Summer Fellowship will build on great programs we already have. Undergraduate research in arts and sciences in Jepson, the Richmond Scholars, the Burhan Civic Fellows, the Weinstein Summer Fellowships, the Bonner Scholar Summer Stipends, the internship opportunities available under the program that began as the DC Initiative and others. More than 100 students receive university funding right now to pursue those internship opportunities. And just a quick glance at, for example, the Bonner Scholars lifts your heart. These students are working this summer on everything from breast cancer to immigrants from the former Soviet Union to inclusivity in K-12 schools throughout Virginia to a Promise Academy elementary school in D.C. to decreasing risk factors for human trafficking in Thailand to working with the United States Marshal Service to substance abuse and mental health rehabilitation to land reform in Peru to community resources in Georgia, to working on the National Geographic's digital content, to helping middle school students in Richmond with their studies, to teaching Philadelphia area children to think and write with clarity, to the Ghana Public Health Internship Program, and to early childhood education in New York City. That's just one program, just in one summer, and these are generated by our students. Other students working through the Career Development Center are doing internships with groups from the Alzheimer's Association to the Bedford-Stuyvesant Volunteer Ambulance Corps to Center Stage to the Country Music Association to the Embassy of France to Harvard's Refugee Youth Summer Enrichment Program to the Make-A-Wish Foundation to the Lazarus Project to the World Pediatric Project. That's what our students are doing now. And what does that say to me? We have great students, but it suggests that there is a hunger and a need and a possibility there that all our students should enjoy and benefit from. At the same time, more than 200 University of Richmond students participate in undergraduate research every year. Now, people have heard of our remarkable record on that front. So, in a great instance of injustice, I was invited to give a keynote address about it at the Council on Undergraduate Research. They wanted a president's perspective, always a dangerous thing, on undergraduate research. And I managed, for purely educational purposes, with no bragging intended, to pull up the Arts and Sciences Research Symposium website in front of those several hundred people and slowly scroll through all the freaking amazing stuff that our students were doing. Purely illustrative purposes. And people were blown away. And they should have been. The faculty and chairs and deans at UR over the last decades have developed a remarkably rich environment for undergraduate research and internships. And the work our colleagues in the sciences do in particular is just jaw-dropping. So building on our experience here, I facetiously suggested that the organization that had invited me to give them their keynote address needed to change their name. Their acronym is the Council for Undergraduate Research. And you'll notice that the acronym for undergraduate research might sound familiar to us. And as I was reading their materials, if I was back flying from Wyoming where I'd done a workshop for a secondary school, and I was reading all of this in the little seats in the back, flipping through that, and I kept seeing UR. And I just instinctively stumbled over it every single time. And they were talking about undergraduate research. And I said, you know, I just would like to call your attention to the fact you don't really want to fool with us because we've been sued by Marvel Comics and Spider Ski Wear. And we're all about kind of protecting our trademark. And so you need to know that the best cheer that we have is we are, you are. And so you shouldn't do that. And of course, I was just kidding because really the point was, it is undergraduate research, but the word research doesn't resonate with every discipline and every school in the same way. It began in the sciences back in the 1970s, and I could see in the literature that I was reading about it that they've been thinking hard at how do we bring our friends in the arts in, who are very involved in all kinds of exploration and experimentation, but would not think of what they do as research. Or a humanist who think of research as what we do to get to the end point, which is the scholarship, but it is not the thing itself. So I thought maybe what we would say is faculty-student collaboration is really what we're talking about, and that we should think about the entire range of that. Now, fortunately, or unfortunate now that I consider it, it completely undercut my point that I was showing our website, which shows that we're already doing that under the rubric of undergraduate research, that faculty from across the School of Arts and Sciences, from the humanities and the arts and the social sciences, and from the Jepson School are all involved in that. So I think you are, in the proper University of Richmond sense of the acronym, can be an international leader in engaging all faculty from all our departments and schools into that kind of collaboration. And I think that so boldly because we're already doing it. Now, let me tell you what this looks like in practice. So this summer, I was surprised one day to find that they had left me, unintentionally I'm sure, 30 minutes of my own to eat lunch in, and with no other obligation. And so I grabbed, a periodical to read because I wouldn't, want to waste all the time. And I went over to Passport Cafe I heard they had a great flatbread special. And I went out and I sat down with something to read, but I saw a young man sitting next to me poring over one of several books that he'd stacked on the table beside him. And I noticed that one of them was by someone who'd been very influential in my own work, the Russian literary theorist Mikhail Bakhtin. And so I asked the student, hey, what are you working on? He says, I'm doing a comparative study of Shakespeare and Dostoevsky. Which is like, yeah, sure. But he had all those books from Shakespeare and Dostoevsky actually stacked there. And he told me that he was doing an independent research project with Professor Colloquy. And he told me that this paid undergraduate research experience was one of the most exciting things he had ever had at the University of Richmond. It was allowing him to go deeper and broader than he could in a school year in a regular course. He said he did worry that he'd become such a nerd that he was working on it while he was eating lunch. And I just smiled at him and said, yes, maybe you have a future as an academic. But in a very different kind of experience, this summer too, I visited our alumni and their colleagues at a series of top banking and investment firms in New York City, many of which use internships between the junior and senior years to fill literally every new position. That if you don't have an internship between your junior and senior years, you're not going to get a job with these famous firms. So I asked them, frankly, a little tentatively, what they would think of students who would have had a university-sponsored internship before that defining summer, which they would still pay for. Unanimously, they told me that it would be a huge asset, no pun intended, that they would love to have somebody who'd already been out on their own that had had an internship, either in business or in doing something else. If they'd had that internship and been reflected on what it means and what they could learn from it, it would actually strengthen their position in the enormously competitive world on Wall Street. So you can see whether it's the humanities or whether it's business, this summer fellowship opens all kinds of possibilities for our students. The basic idea behind the UR Summer Fellowship is that we will build on our success to create the capacity for twice as many undergraduates as we now have. That we will have 600 students every year involved in undergraduate research and internships. Here's a quick sketch of how this is evolving. Through philanthropy, we will build a central funding source that will augment the funds already available across the university for these programs. We will guarantee, traces of steep assessing, each of our undergraduate students a paid summer fellowship once during his or her years at Richmond. It will, depending on the context, provide a stipend of from $2,400 to $4,000. A centralized website will allow students to see all the possibilities before them, whether research on campus with faculty, a fellowship in Richmond or elsewhere with the Center for Civic Engagement, or an internship or other opportunity made available through alumni or other connections. Some of these opportunities will be faculty mentored, and others may not have a faculty component, although all students will be required to reflect on what they've learned, not unlike the presentations that the Bonner Scholars do at the end of each year. Then, as now, faculty will be able to choose whether they want to participate in this or not. The Summer Fellowship will introduce multiple benefits for the university, I think. It brings our existing strengths to a new level of coherence and visibility and value. It allows faculty and schools to augment their research dollars with institutional resources so they can do even more remarkable work. And the program connects us to the outside world while amplifying what happens inside the university. No other university with which we compete for students offers such a comprehensive plan. The only school in the country we've been able to identify with a program of this degree of ambition is Smith College, an excellent school, but one with which we have little overlap. The summer fellowship, therefore, would distinguish us in ways that students and their parents understand very well and that our donors appreciate as well. People increasingly understand that graduates' life chances, whether in gaining admittance to the best professional or graduate schools, or in business or nonprofit leadership, or in service to Teach for America or the Peace Corps, often depend on the record they have established in summer research or internships. The course of their lives is increasingly being shaped by what they learn and do in the summers, whether that's in a lab or a library or an office or in the field. The summer fellowship, moreover, is a necessary complement to our commitment to financial aid, to our commitment to opportunity. If we want to see the remarkable education here, to give people a foothold in the world, we have to do this. As it is, if your family is fortunate, you have a good chance at a fellowship somewhere, at an internship somewhere. But if you are not fortunate, how do you get a start? Who's going to give you a chance to show what you can do? Financial support for those students is essential. As it is now, students without personal resources are not able to take a summer off from working, or to afford to live in New York or Boston for a summer, or to experience the challenge of living abroad. UR Summer Fellowship will provide them with those life-changing opportunities. It will fulfill our promise to be a place of opportunity for every student. I think we can be a national leader in this. This is not something that people are noticing, that increasingly the chance that you have when you're 19 is going to make a difference for the chances you have for the rest of your life. I very much want to extend this opportunity to our student athletes. As it is, many of them do not participate in some of the defining aspects of a Richmond education. It doesn't seem right to me. And I've spoken with our athletics leaders and coaches about whether it would be possible to have our students participate in Division I athletics and still take advantage of undergraduate research or civic engagement or study abroad. And they have assured me they will find a way to make it work. They understand that this is their first obligation to the young men and women who come here, and that this can actually be an advantage, that people will want to come to a place that takes so seriously the education that we offer that we make sure that everybody who comes here participates in it. So the possibilities for our students are exciting, and there are other institutional benefits to the UR Summer Fellowship. Our colleagues in advancement have done a tremendous job of fostering the engagement of our alumni with the university. As you'll see from the scorecard, we have far more events and visitors than we did in 2007. And our annual fund numbers are up at a time when very few universities and colleges are seeing an increase. Tom Gutenberger will be the first to tell you that our alumni participation is important to us for many reasons. It tells the world that we have a loyal, engaged alumni, which are essential to the health of any college or university. Now, it's one of the many privileges of my job that I get to hear over and over of our alumni's gratitude for the experiences they had at UR, whether that was in the 1940s or in the first decade of our new century. Now, the Summer Fellowship provides us a remarkable opportunity to broaden and deepen our alumni engagement in new kinds of ways. If someone works at a nonprofit or government agency, for example, he or she may not have lots of disposable income to share with us, but they may very well have a position to offer an energetic young spider who would show up with her own way paid. A person may not be a CEO of a company, but he or she can open the door with their boss to the possibility of bringing in an excellent University of Richmond as an intern. We have alumni across the nation and the world who would love to help, who would love to pay back, and don't know how. And this would give them a chance to do so, to bond with our students and with the university in a creative and meaningful way. So as you can tell, I find this a thrilling prospect. But I'm sure that all of you recognize that the bold vision of a summer fellowship presents several challenges. There are reasons that we will be the only school with which we compete to offer such a thing as a summer fellowship for every student. I would say, as you study the the scorecard later at your own leisure, not now, you will notice that there's only one number of admissions that has gone down at all, and that's yield. And as we compete for better and better students, it's harder and harder to get them. And we're going to have to be more and more purposeful about how we make sure that we tell the Richmond story the best way we can. So this is a way for us to address what's going to become an increasing challenge as we play at higher and higher levels. First of all, we will need to build an endowment for this purpose so that it does not weaken any of the other work that we do. That will be my responsibility, along with my colleagues in advancement. And I've been speaking about this with some of our best friends and have found a heartening response. The idea to do something that people understand, scholarships, but to do it in an innovative way is very exciting to people. I've been speaking about this with people, and I found that the summer fellowship will be a major focus of the targeted campaign that we plan to launch in early 2013, coordinated with our centennial of West Hampton College. And by the way, thanks to Juliet for that great editorial in the RTD today, and for the centennial of us being in this beautiful location that all of us enjoy every day. Second, we will need to mobilize our alumni base so they can help generate opportunities for our students. We'll have to find discipline and effective ways to reach out to them, to connect, so they understand what it is that we offer, what we can't offer, and how that's going to work. Our colleagues in alumni relations and career development are already working to make this happen. Third, we will need to involve as much of the entire university as possible. That includes the law school, which has made remarkable progress in the last few years, become one of the very few schools in the nation to be admitted to the exclusive Order of the Coif in the last 5 years. The law school needs to be able to offer its version of summer fellowships to sustain its momentum. We will have to build the resources to make that happen, and I know Wendy is ready to work with me on that important front. We'll also need to determine ways that the School of Professional Continuing Studies can best take advantage of a university-wide focus on combining the world and education. Its in-service component of teacher education is already a great success, another example of what we can do here, and we need to create fellowships for their important work. Our MBA capstone course is another example of how the principles of the summer fellowship can work in each of our programs and schools, tailored to its particular needs. Another opportunity is building upon our remarkable tradition of immersive study abroad. Uliana Gabara and Joe Hoff have been great allies in thinking of ways to use the summer fellowship to broaden the internationalization of the university. My hope and expectation is that students who have studied outside the United States will recognize the great benefits of working abroad on a summer fellowship. Incorporating international experience to the summer fellowships will leverage our experience and excellence in international education. And this brings us to the final, and to me, most exciting challenge. Instilling in our students, from the moment they accept our offer of admission, a sense that they can and must be the creators of their own opportunities. As you've heard, the university will make stipends available, will step up as advisors, will find allies among our alumni, will foster opportunities in our region, and will foster strong relationships with nonprofits and governmental agencies and businesses. But it will be up to the students themselves to figure out how they will use that remarkable opportunity. It will be up to them to think about what dream they want to test, what certainty they need to challenge, what curiosity they want to satisfy, what capacity they want to discover within themselves. It will be up to them to seek out the faculty they admire, whose abilities and character they trust. It will be up to them to visit the Career Development Center at the beginning of their time at Richmond, not in the last semester, to connect with alumni who have personally offered generous help. Rather than merely handing our students something, in other words, the summer fellowship will present them with an exciting challenge. It will accelerate their process of discovery. It will test them and inspire them. It will give them a greater sense of purpose. It will become a topic of common conversation from the time they set foot on campus. What do you want to do? How are you going to explore that? Maybe that class would be a good entryway into that. Here's something I've always wanted to do. Do you have ideas? What might we do together? If we get all our students talking about connecting their educations to the world. We know there will be other challenges. This initiative will require the university to think this through, to build institutional capacity, to mobilize its energies, and to inspire its students and our alumni to create new kinds of opportunities. But being the first school on this scale of complexity, will test us, but it will give us a great new opportunity to further define what the University of Richmond is, to show that we can be leaders in international education, that we can be leaders in the country in thinking about all the ways that you can use a university to create good things. As you've seen, we've done other great things. We've accomplished other challenging things we weren't sure we could in 2007. On different fronts and different ways, we found ways to make it happen. And I hope all of you are ready for an exciting new year and for this and other new adventures. Thank you so much.